Welcome to the Protecting Your Nest podcast, sharing the healing message that achieving metabolic health with carb restriction is a message that I am passionate about. Whether that's with low carb, keto, or carnivore, is a decision that each and every one of us must decide on based on our individual circumstances. And yes, it's possible to be metabolically healthy with a low-fat vegan diet as long as you have the appropriate supplementation like vitamin B12, iron, and others. Make sure you do that because without those supplements, you may have problems. I just prefer the dietary approach that does not require supplementation, which is why I focus on a low-carb dietary plan. But healing is only one aspect of the conversation. The other is prevention. And why not start that prevention as early in life as possible? That's why I wanted to have a guest who has started his healing journey, just like my 22 and 24-year-old sons, early in life, so that all the suffering that comes from not being metabolically healthy will never, ever be seen by them. Today's guest is Jahfari Jones. Jahfari is a 20-year-old who discovered the carnivore diet after not feeling his best. He tried the vegan dietary approach, but found it just wasn't meeting his needs. I wanted to bring him to the podcast because, like my sons, he knew something was wrong. Aren't we supposed to feel our best when we're young? Shouldn't that be the time when we have the most energy and focus? So if you know anyone who does not feel energetic or who has struggled in school, this may be the podcast episode to share with them. Imagine if they are suffering from a lack of motivation, and this could be magically fixed with a simple dietary change. Imagine you being the one who helped them get back on track. Imagine how different their future would be. Just imagine that. So let's have our conversation so we can lay the foundation for them, a foundation that would help them more easily achieve their life goals by fueling their body with the right fuel. And with that, my friend, I welcome you to the Protecting Your Nest podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. This is my second podcast ever, so I'm really excited to do this and share my personal experience.
Yeah, I thank you also. And, I'm actually going to dedicate this episode to my 22 and 24-year-old son, since you're close to their age. And that's why I have my Wash You hat on for those who are checking this episode out on YouTube. And why do I have that hat on? Well, because when we release this episode, believe it or not, my friend, they both will be graduating, one from graduate school at WashU and the other from undergrad. And even more good news is that my youngest son, who will be going to graduate school like his older brother, just got a full ride scholarship. And we just found that out a couple of days before this recording. So Dr. Hampton is a happy camper. My family's happy. And again, it's just appropriate that I have an episode with someone who's around their age, who's also having a similar benefit from dietary changes. So let's kind of get our conversation started. And I was checking out my YouTube feed, and I saw the Black Carnivore's thumbnail advertising the interview that she was doing with you, and I was intrigued because it was obvious that you were one of her youngest guests that I've seen. And after hearing that interview with A-Day Fox, I knew I wanted to continue the discussion on the Protecting Your Nest podcast. And by the way, for anybody listening or watching, I'll make sure to have the link to that episode with A-Day as well. So do me a favor and share with my audience how you found the Black Carnivore and how the carnivore diet has changed your life.
Well, I found her on Instagram. One day I was just on the, is it recommended or, the big page where a bunch of posts pop up that are unrelated to you. I saw her video and she was going to a restaurant and I saw the handle was Black Carnivore. I was like, I hardly see any Black people or people of color in the carnivore community or keto.
That's right.
Actually, on some keto pages, I do see, some people in the comments, which is good, which is a good thing. But I didn't see Black Carnivore before, so I'm like, And it made sense because it's just like it stands out. You know, most of the other
That's right.
carnivore influencers uh, are either Caucasian, but anyway. So yeah, I found her on Instagram, and I followed her because I thought it was a cool thing she was doing, and she ended up messaging me and invited me on a podcast,
Cool.
which is totally unexpected, and that's how I got in contact with her. And then how I came across
Cool.
the carnivore diet was about a year ago was when I started, but I was suffering because I was vegan before that, and
Mm-hmm.
up to that point a year ago, my health got worse. You know, most people wouldn't just change their diet so drastically just because they feel good.
That's right.
So
Now
I
your health
had
got worse on vegan. So you were a vegan, and I was, vegan and vegetarian before, but you're saying, so you became vegan because you needed to improve your health, or did you notice when you became vegan, your health got worse?
it was more like a thing my mom started, and I was a kid at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not like I was suffering from any bad health conditions or
Mm-hmm.
something that you need to change your diet for, but I wasn't the healthiest kid. I was bloated a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
had acid reflux as a kid, which is weird. Like my throat would
Mm.
burn, and I had these weird stomach issues. Like my stomach would just hurt out of nowhere. But I went vegan, and I guess some of those went away. But other problems came with it, which didn't make sense to me. So at the beginning of 2021 was when when I changed to carnivore. But that's not when I started to change my diet, because while I was vegan, I did try to experiment with it. I tried the alkaline diet, which is a total joke, and I thought fermenting my foods would make it easier on my digestion, because that's where most of my problems came
You
from.
would think, right?
Yeah, I mean, it did at first. I had like these fermented onions, and I was like, oh, I feel pretty good today. But that was just that day. That was the first time I did it, and
Right.
I never got better after that. But yeah, and then I tried fermented foods, alkaline diet, and then I reached a point when I was like, this is not working. So then I saw a video on carnivore, because I was already looking into diets and stuff like that. Well, not on carnivore. It was more on ketosis, and that's the first time I learned that word. And
Mm-hmm.
then after that, I kept learning more and more about it, because it kept popping up on recommended, and it was super interesting. And that's how I got here today. So
That's awesome. Now I remember when you talked to A Day, you mentioned what my kids mentioned, which is my focus is better. I don't know if you mentioned your energy, but it just seems like your mental clarity improved. I think you mentioned your skin improved, and that's important. Even at 53, it's still important. Trust me. We want our skin to look, you're a handsome guy. I'm trying to look as decent as possible, right? And we all care about how we look, right? And so you mentioned there was some things maybe you weren't expecting. And even I don't know if you mentioned anxiety, but I think you may have mentioned so all of these things got better. And were you even looking for those things to get better, like anxiety, for example? That's crazy.
no, actually, that's something I'm really glad I got in better control, because I feel I can talk to people better. I can communicate more clearly. Stressful situations
Yeah.
don't get to me as much.
Right.
But
Right.
no, I didn't expect all those benefits. I just wanted to do the diet to deal with my digestion mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because after at the end of there's some stuff I didn't share on the first podcast because I was a little nervous. But
Yeah.
my main issue at the at the end of veganism was like at the basically my prostate and the area on my anus was like inflamed, and it was like
Wow.
I've been like that for like a year, and it was weird, and it
That's
was not good.
crazy.
So that was basically my focus. I wanted to get rid of that. I was like, this is definitely abnormal. I haven't gone to the doctor yet, but I will
Yeah.
soon,
Yeah.
because I want to see,
Yeah.
like, I want to get the medical terms so I don't have to say my butt's on fire in podcasts and stuff like that.
That's funny. Yeah, well,
So
it's just ironic because I would have assumed, even though I'm a low carb guy, that a vegan diet would be anti-inflammatory. Now, I will say this: when you're vegan, you're gonna need to get rid of all that fiber, and it could irritate you if you're having to run to the bathroom a lot. For sure. And I know that now. I just want you to know that the reason why I'm a low carber, other than, my wife and her diabetes and things like that, is because I had irritable bowel. So for me, similar to you, it was a gastrointestinal issue. And even though I was vegan and was doing okay compared to the standard American diet, I feel completely like better with this. For me, it's more like, keto slash carnivore slash, it's a little bit. I do eat some plants, but I don't eat a lot of them. But man, I feel so much better. So my body pretty much just told me what was best. I'll be having a guest in the future with Natron, which is a probiotic company, and we're going to be talking about probiotics. Now, before I knew of any of these diets, I was using probiotics, the healthy bacteria, to improve my microbiome, and it did help. I mean, my symptoms got better. So that's why I want to bring them to the podcast, because I think there's layers to this, right? And everybody has to find their path. So that's really interesting. I'm just happy, thankful that you was, an investigative journalist like Nina Teicholz, Gary Taubes, and you did your own research and you found a way to heal. So let's talk a little bit about where you're from. You're from Belize originally. And when I looked it up, it said that most people from Belize are multiracial, and 52% was mestizo. I don't know how to pronounce that, to be honest with you. 25% were Creole. You kind of remind me of that, because when I was in New Orleans, when we went to Xavier, New Orleans, most of the people from New Orleans kind of look like you, light complected, kind of that French and African mixture, And then they had some other cultures like just a lot of different cultures beyond that, but it was definitely multiracial. So I want you to talk a little bit about, what it was it like to grow up in Belize, and where do you hang out now? I kind of already got a sense of that because it's out west, right? So talk a little bit about your previous life. When did you come over here, and the contrast, any contrast you like to make?
in Belize, it's well, right now the economy is basically worse than what it was when I was younger. Because it's not a first world country, so I feel like corruption is something that gets a stronger foothold in countries like that. And most of my family basically ended up moving out here. Not most, but they're starting to move out here more and more. Some people want to stay, which is fine, of course, because it's still a beautiful country. But when I grew up there, it was on the news. At least you'd see a lot of violence and stuff like that. You don't hear about the bad stuff when you go on there on like a vacation and stuff like that. I think those areas are separated, but yeah, it was mostly, but it wasn't too bad. The school system is a little different, and the food is, well, when I was there, I don't remember people saying anything about saturated fat and avoiding fat, and
right.
I think people just ate what they want, which is cool, and there's a lot more nature. So I used to go fishing a lot, which is something I enjoyed. Like I wanted to do it out here, but it's hard to find a good spot. But
yeah,
but yeah, it was a lot of nature nearby, and it was cool in that aspect. And then when I moved out here, it was we first moved to LA, and we had to stay with family because we just came to the country, and the currency system is different. Like $1 is $2 Belize. So it was like that for a while, and I lived in LA, and I don't remember much of what I ate or what it was like, but the school system was different. And
you were what age exactly were you when you came?
I came out here 2009, 2010 maybe. I was 8 or 9. So I was
okay, so you're pretty young.
Yeah. And I ended up, when I get to the school system, I was basically a year younger than everybody in my class. And I did get teased a
Right.
little because I had a little accent.
I'm
My
sure
mom
you
still
did.
has her. My mom still has hers, and I can't hear it, but other people say she has an accent.
Right. That's right.
But
Yes. Very subtle when you have a change of environment and you have this accent. It takes a little time. So
yeah,
that's real cool. So you had a chance to spend at least your earlier years in a different country. It's always good to have a little perspective, and I know when you guys talked about it on the Black Carnivores channel, you know shared that they're not exactly eating healthy either. Even though I think our perception is that a lot of those other countries do better with diet. So it's important that we all. So the messaging that we have should be really not just for the United States. I'm in Chicago. You're in LA. I got my Chicago shirt on today, but I'm glad we're matching. I was kind of teasing you before we got started that we both have our T-shirts on today, but yeah, we're representing today, so I wanted to keep it kind of light. But yeah, I really think we need to reach the world, right? So, and that's what's cool about podcasts. Sometimes I'm amazed when I look at the demographics, you know, and the geography, and it's like all over the place. So your voice and my voice today will reach many people, and I love that, and I appreciate you for that. So let's. One of the things I talked about was anxiety, and you said that yes, that got better, but going against conventional advice takes courage, and you know, as a clinician, I've had to deal with that many times. I've had to deal with it with my family. And in fact, you know, I've literally had patients come to me and say, "Yeah, I saw the cardiologist or I saw the nephrologist, and they said that they are not going to take care of me if you follow that keto diet that Dr. Hampton is recommending." Right. So, in order for me to have the courage to continue to inspire my people to consider that dietary pattern, you know, you have to push against that. And there's so many times I've had patients come to me after seeing a nephrologist. Nephrologist says you can't improve kidney function, and I'm like, well, we just did it. Like, I just your creatinine, which is what we measure in the blood, your microalbumin, they're all improving. So, you know, but again, the training doesn't really give all the clinicians what they need to know that that's possible. So they don't even think about it. Everything they think about is, I just read a study that said which medicine to use. And there's no medicine, I don't think, that'll ever be invented that'll improve your metabolic health like your lifestyle will. So, but for you, um, you know, it takes courage to be an outlier. So where did that courage come from?
um, maybe it's little bit of insanity because you know you have to kind of be out there to just like be on the complete opposite of what everyone's saying. But
Yes.
I when I first started, I wasn't because at first I learned about ketosis and I was like, this is just. I feel like this is irrefutable. It's just like this is how the body works. This is what happened when you cut the
Right.
carbs, and so I wasn't too worried about talking to other people about it or telling people um, that this is what happens when I do this and this is why I do it. But I feel like my courage for sticking to it and talking about it mostly comes from the people I listen to and the stuff they say because you know it's hard to refute. Like I don't think they're wrong. And if
Mm-hmm.
you look at like if you want to see to me if you're looking for something that's are you looking for information on something? I think it's good to look at both sides. Like, you hear about the carnivore
Mm,
diet, you want to look at why the carnivore diet's bad, and then you look up why it's good. And then usually one side will have better evidence than the other. And
mm.
on the side that I'm on right now, I can't really. There's a lot of good evidence, so I don't feel pressured to when people say, "Oh, you shouldn't do that because of cholesterol. You shouldn't do that because you're gonna get fat." Some my little brother says that sometimes. But
Yeah.
he sees me eat meat, so he does it now a little more, which is a good
Cool.
thing. But that and I never really got into mainstream medical advice, maybe because I didn't grow up out here.
Mm-hmm.
But or
Mm.
part of my life I didn't grow up out here. But when I did come out here, I was kind of like, maybe I was a little scared of doctors because all of a sudden you have to get shots to go to school, which is something that we didn't do in Belize. I think
Oh,
you do
really?
them at birth, but like, and
I did not know that.
not for like elementary or middle school and high school. That was strange to me. So
That's interesting. Wow.
so I don't think I had a good
That's
relationship with
amazing.
yeah, I don't think I had a good
Yeah.
relationship with medical professionals. So I try to like, I guess I stayed away from it, and I just like, I'm gonna do my own thing and see what happens. And if I lose an arm, I'll go to the doctor.
I love it because you got lucky, because if you had followed the conventional teaching, it may have taken you down a path that wasn't going to be as helpful. But what really impressed me with your comments is that you used the term, it was irrefutable, right? And as a board certified family doctor, board certified obesity doctor, I have a master's in nutrition and functional medicine. I Everything to my core is evidence based, right? So although there are many ways to achieve metabolic health, it's irrefutable that restricting carbs is one of them, right? I mean, it's just, you can't argue with the science. You can't argue with the randomized control trials that say that saturated fat does not cause heart disease. You just can't argue with that anymore. So I'm so excited that you're seeing the world through the lens of a person who's thinking like a scientist. And when I met A-Day Fox, one of the things that I noticed about her right away, and she honors like the doctor titles and the scientist titles, but man, if you listen to her, she's a scientist at heart too. And I think she's done some research, so she understands that we have to look at data and science. And I also appreciate the fact that you said we have to trust and be comfortable with looking at, not trust, but be comfortable looking at both sides, right? So you have to periodically see what's being talked about on the other side. And I love, like, yes, don't just listen to, a Sean Baker, and he's going to have research soon. Let's see the counter arguments, and if those counter arguments are compelling, you got to honor that, right? So we have to question everything. And one of the things I want to speak to next is what you see when you go to Google, right? And one of the things I saw thinking about our conversation was an article entitled "Are Low Carbs Healthy for Teenagers?" Okay, and and they talked about the potential side effects of eating a low carb or carb restricted diet. And in their definition, of course, they weren't thinking carnivore. They were just saying less than 130 grams a day. And by the way, 130 grams, sounds like it's not low carb, but if you think about the standard American diet, it is. Like the standard American diet, they're eating like 250, 300, 350, a day. So although I don't consider that low carb, I usually go down to 50 or 20 and or carnivore. But the things they mentioned as potential side effects included muscle cramps, diarrhea, weakness, skin rashes, and constipation based on a 2007 review in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. They said teens who drastically cut carbs might not be getting all the essential nutrients their bodies require. How ironic is that statement? To function, grow, and develop properly. And they also mentioned that teen athletes who follow low carb diets often experience fatigue and reduced athletic performance. So, man, I can talk about this. So, I just want to hear your thoughts about that.
that
What's your
that
thoughts
art
on that?
that article specifically was pretty it was funny because they didn't mention fat at all in the article, like increasing fat as you lower the carbs. So I don't know what they did with the diet specifically, because they didn't give us, they just said we lowered the carbs between 130 and 50.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay.
Right.
So first of all, they didn't really cite enough sources, at least to like say this is where we got this information from. You can take a look at it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
They did appeal to authority by bringing the American something, and they said it might not have enough nutrients. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it also might, because that's not a definitive statement. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
this
Right.
diet is definitely, you shouldn't do it because you're going to get scurvy or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then as for the symptoms, I think that's what happens when you switch to keto. At least if that's what they did in the diet was keto, as some people define it, because
Mm-hmm.
some people have different definitions. I think below 50, 130 is way too high
Mm-hmm.
to me. Like,
Yeah, it is. It is.
I was really confused. So below 50, that's when you kind of like start getting into keto, and then of course there's gonna be a transition. So your body's gonna adapt to it, and you might get diarrhea if you jump into it too fast. Some people say to do it gradually,
Mm-hmm.
but if you jump into it too fast, you might get some of those symptoms. But it won't last forever. It'll be like a week-long thing, because that's what happened when I did carnivore.
Yeah.
And as for constipation, I haven't dealt with that, and I'm the one with like a big constipation problem right now.
Right.
And
Yeah.
if you're on keto and you have constipation, I can just say, like, just eat more fat. That'll, like, you'll know, like, you have to go to the bathroom.
That'll solve it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then muscle weakness, I've heard it does take time to transition between fat burning and carb burning. So you're going to suffer athletically for a period of time.
That's right.
But as you do it longer, you're going to have like a better fuel source, because now you're going to be working out on fat, and you can just like go longer and go harder.
That's right.
The article is bad for teens. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's it was something else I want to say. Yeah, and it said it was nutrient deficient for teens. I don't think that makes sense. There's not one nutrient in carbs that you can't get from animals, number one. And then plants are still included in the keto diet. So even if you do cut out, the highly processed stuff and the high carb stuff, you can still get the nutrients from some of the plants you do eat. So I don't know what they were trying to do with that one. It just didn't.
Yeah. Right. So think about what you just did, though. You did a wonderful. So you're a 20-year-old. You're not, you don't have a PhD yet, but yet close. The way you expressed, you have. But your PhD is coming from the time it took to read that, the time it took to listen to thought leaders, and the time it takes to question things. So even the way you've questioned things is what scientists do. We look at what's in front of us, and we question things, and we say, is the quality of this what it should be? One of the biggest flaws in low carb keto science is this, definition. And like you said, I don't think 130 is low carb. Now, having said that, if you go to the Diet Doctor or some other sources, and I write articles for them, they will start at 130 for low carb. I think in terms of ketosis, you're not going to probably do it at 130 unless you're some athletic person. But my point of it is, if you're trying to look at this diet as being beneficial, you're probably going to have carb numbers in the 50 range or less to make it valid in my mind. And so anything that's not doing that is not valid in my mind. So I really appreciate that. I also want to speak to a review, right? So the question is, what the heck is a review? And really, whenever you think about reviews, they're really just summarizing what the current understanding of a particular topic or discipline. Now, but ultimately, we consider that like secondary sources. So if I'm in class as I'm studying nutrition and functional medicine, I can't even use review articles to cite anything. They won't even accept it. It'll literally give me a 0 if I do that. So that's because it's like for me, it's like an opinion piece. It's almost like me and you getting together, reading some articles and saying, what do we think about it? So it's not really science, and it's not, and typically you can have a systematic review But they didn't say systematic review and meta-analysis. They said a review, which means it's an opinion piece. So we can't take that level of evidence and do much with it other than say, oh, that's interesting. Maybe we should do more research. There was another article that I saw that was called "Is Keto Diet Safe and Effective for Teenagers?" Right? And that article looked at several studies that did the opposite of this article, which basically says, oh, it looks like the keto diet is actually good. And I think they said 60% of the participants had, significant weight loss, and only 22% of the participants felt that they couldn't continue to diet. That's a very small percentage when you think about how hard it is to maintain diets. And they also said that there was a 50 to 90% reduction in seizures, which we kind of already knew that the keto diet could be beneficial because you have to be in ketosis, going back to that concept, if you have seizures. So it sounds like, again, that every article has to be looked at on its own merit. But when you're making decisions for your life, it should be based on the highest degree of science. So I'm really happy that you know how to look at the science and at least question it and then ask more questions. So now you have this carnivore diet going on, and you're, again, a little bit of an outlier in your family and with your friends. But then you have to have dinner at home. You got to go to friends' homes and parties. You're going to be, working. You got to deal with food in that environment. So and then you're going to be going from the interview with 8A Fox, you're going to be going to school potentially, right? So how are you navigating as you live in your carnivore bubble?
That's a good question. Right now I just started working, and I thought working and eating would be weird at first because I was doing 2 meals a day when I started working, but I switched back to one because I was just like, I can't do that. Because I did 2 meals because I usually eat like 3 pounds of meat a day, and I was like, I can't stuff 3 pounds in one meal, but now I can, which is weird. But
Interesting.
so yeah, and then navigating between family and friends, and well, I haven't gone out with friends or family. I haven't been to a restaurant since quarantine started. No, that's not true. I did go to a restaurant with my granny because she came out from Belize, because more people are coming out here, and
Cool.
it was a Mexican restaurant. I did not know what to get, and I was like, let me just get this pork burrito, but put nothing on the inside, just pork. So it was just like a burrito with just meat, and I unwrapped the tortilla and I just ate the pork. And then the guy came back and he had to pick up the plate, and just the tortilla sitting there. It was a little awkward, but when I try to go out and eat, I try to like just stick to the meat. I'm not too worried about seasonings if I would go out, but I would definitely avoid it if I could. But the way they prepared the pork for that, I think they like made it in a pot so I couldn't, and it's like for everybody or for every portion or whatever. So I don't think I could say just leave that out because I'm here. So
right.
And when it comes to school, I haven't I haven't started yet, so I haven't come up with a plan. But I think I'm just gonna take my own lunches. Either that, or I'm just not gonna eat until I get home, because as you do this diet, skipping a meal isn't something that's gonna be detrimental to your day, and you're just like,
that's right.
I don't want to talk to you. I'm hungry or I'm hangry, or like the Snickers commercials that they like to they like to show all the time. So yeah, and I haven't been in contact with friends recently, so I haven't really had to deal with going over to people's houses and eating. But I have had food come here that, because it was Thanksgiving, and my mom was like, "Do you want anything from this Thanksgiving party?" I was like, "Oh, let me get the meat. I'll try some pork this time," because every Thanksgiving I've always avoided pork, because actually my dad was Muslim, so pork is like it's a bad meat. It's not good for you.
That's right. So, don't eat that. Right.
I never ate it as a kid, and then I was carnivore. I was like, let me indulge. So I got
that's right.
I said, look, bring back some pork, and I did. And after this happened, I never wanted anybody to cook for me ever again. So I always cook my own food now.
Right.
So they brought back the pork, and it was sweet, and I just didn't like it, and it wasn't salty enough.
Yeah.
And just the fact that they put sugar and stuff like that on it, I just like, I'm just gonna prepare my own food from now on. So that's what I try to do: prepare my own food. and plan ahead. And if I don't plan properly, I just don't eat.
That's fair. And it's nice to not be hungry. It's nice to make cooking simpler. And I know a lot of carnivores just primarily focus on salt. And it seems hard to just maybe you should comment briefly on your typical day, right? So when you're eating your carnivore lifestyle, it's hard for people to put their brains around this, but what's a typical day? You're not in a restaurant, you're just hanging out at home. Like today when we're recording, what would you normally eat in a day on most
Okay.
days?
I'd wake up at like 10. So my first meal would be like at 2 or 1. I try to eat more towards the afternoon because waking up and eating in the morning just makes me feel kind of sick. I don't know if other people experience that, but breakfast is something like I've kind of been training myself to skip more often. So
Mm-hmm.
I wake up and I eat. I get like this big steak. It's like 2 pounds or 3 pounds, depending on the size they cut it. And if it's 2 pounds, I'll add some extra burger patties after the steak. And then, but if it's 3 pounds, I'll just stick it to that because that's my limit. It's 3 pounds. That's what I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed. And that's it. I eat from 1 to maybe 2 or 2:30, depending on how long it takes me to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, as I've been doing this, I've been noticing I eat slower. I eat more properly, I guess, because
Mm-hmm.
in carb addicted, you just shove them down your throat, I guess.
Right.
But I and that's it.
And you're done, and that's
I
it.
just eat one time a day, and then I just
Yeah.
go to sleep, and I wake up the next day and do it again.
People who, and I think for anybody watching or listening, right? This podcast is not to convince you to become carnivore, keto, low carb, any of that stuff, but it's to help you understand how simple uh, it is. And also remind you, and you've heard this before, essential amino acids, essential fatty acids. That's all you need to live on. Just think of yourself as that bear that's on the river somewhere trying to catch the salmon, right? And that's all the bear needs. There's no need for life to have a carb ever. And people, they struggle with that one, but this is just basic, irrefutable, the term you would use, scientific fact. So you never have to eat a carb for the rest of your life. And you may do yourself a favor if you don't. So it's hard to wrap your brain around that, but that's just biochemistry. And that's why you can get away with that. And just imagine how much time you get back and to not be thinking about food all day. I just don't think about food. I know I have to eat. I know that there's a, kind of a schedule I kind of have myself on, but that's it. So it's simple. I just want you to express that because people, they they're just like, oh, what is this carnivore thing about? And of course, there's more variety to eating animals than what you just described. But I think it's important that people understand that there are so many benefits that outweigh anything that would be considered a negative. So I appreciate that. And another thing I appreciate is that you're, as you think about school, as my kids are in school, so I'm always thinking about school because I have to write checks, even though less checks now with the scholarship, right? But I think about, you mentioned to A-Day, this, communications was something you were thinking about going into. I know you're a gamer and all that kind of stuff as well. So, but the need to communicate this healing message it's kind of a very important message, right? So as you think about your future, had you thought about using that skill to get the message out that, man, there's a way to heal, guys? What's your thoughts on that?
Actually, I did want to do communications, my major, because that was basically the field that you have to go in if you want to do video production. So
Mm-hmm.
I was going to do it, and I still do have those skills because I did do it in high school, and I was pretty good at it. And I want to do it. I want to after a while, maybe I'll do like just a small video at first, like on TikTok. I'll be like what I eat in a day
Mm-hmm.
because I see those sometimes. I was like, oh,
Right.
this would be a good way to show people that you can just eat this in a day and still survive somehow. But Yeah, I want to try to do that. And also, if I do start a YouTube channel, which I'm really thinking about more positively now, but I would after I gain a certain following, I'd be like, this is my daily routine, and then slowly like
Mm-hmm.
ease people into it, get people to ask questions like, why do you do that? Like, what are you doing? Right? So, and then
Right.
as it comes up more, I'll be like, oh, let me respond to this comment because it's so popular, and then
Mm-hmm.
they'll see it, and then I get to talk about it more. I think that would be a good
That's
way
right.
to show it off and get more people interested.
That's right. And you'll always have, if you ever do any future videos or anything, podcasts, whatever, you'll always have a whole lot of guests that can come up on board and add any expertise. So I'll volunteer myself. I'm a volunteer 8A Fox right now. so, so that way, when you're doing that, when it's not just you, you'll have a family to kind of help spread that message. Because again, that's pretty much one of my life missions is to help spread the message. So another thing that I think is important, and that's why I have a nest, because the nest reminds us it's not just diet, right? And sleep is important, for example, right? They always say if you don't snooze, you may lose, right? So Cleveland Clinic, um, you know, stated that teenagers, and I know you're past that, but teenagers need at least 9 hours of sleep each night to function at their best during the day. And it doesn't sound too hard on the surface, but then when you think about you'll be starting school soon, uh, you know, some some young adults, some teenagers have sports they have to go to. Some people, of course, you got homework that can keep you up. And so there's a lot of reasons that make getting enough sleep a challenging, issue. So I want to ask you, how much of a priority have you made sleep? How much of a priority have your friends made sleep? And because I know a lot of teenagers, a lot of young adults are night owls, right? Especially gamers, right? So where is sleep on your priority list at this point?
Um, it's pretty important. Well, I do get a lot of sleep. I just don't go to sleep as early as I want. But I've noticed even if I don't go to sleep early and I just sleep long enough, I still feel pretty good in the morning. I do.
Mm-hmm.
It does take a
Mm-hmm.
while for me to wake up though. Like I'm just like
Mm-hmm.
groggy a little longer. So I wanna go to sleep a little earlier because right now it's like midnight for some reason. But I'm not suffering too badly. In high school, I had to. I don't know why. I was always tired at school and on my way and after school, but not when I'm at home when I need to go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
I think sleep is really important. I'm trying to. I wish I prioritized it more in my in high school. Maybe I'd be a little taller. And
Yeah, you do grow in your sleep. That's true.
and
That's funny.
and right now it's for my friends. They live on their own, so I'm not sure. I haven't seen them in a long time, so I don't know what time they go to sleep. I know my little brother, who also lives with me, he goes to sleep
Mm-hmm.
really late, like in the AM, like 2 a.m., 3 a.m.,
Wow.
maybe. I don't, and he wakes up really late.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
I try not to do that. I'm trying not to do that because I'm kind of doing it right
that's right.
now,
Right.
but
That's right.
it's an adjustment thing. But I don't get bad sleep, which is something I think I can, because there's nutritional requirements to get good sleep or to feel tired, because
Mm-hmm.
some things if you don't have a specific vitamin or mineral, I guess it can affect your sleep basically.
Absolutely. No doubt. One of them would be magnesium for sure. And that's why a lot of people will supplement at the end of the day with magnesium. It's good for sleep, stress, blood pressure, and a gazillion other things. And I will say this. I did have a podcast interview with Dr. Michael Bruce, and it may be something you may want to go back. And he has a book that really looks at what type of sleeper are you. And they do have night owls. And a lot of people in your age category fit that, where it's okay to be up a little later. You still got to get your sleep in, and that's probably why you kind of get away with that. Now, you do evolve. And as we get older, we leave the night owl phase and go into a different phase. But that may be worth looking into, because part of it is, if I have the knowledge that says this is okay, then maybe I can keep doing it. I think on his website, there's a way to kind of answer some questions and to determine what type of sleeper you are. And then that may be something to do as an academic thing. And again, that may be something to share in the show notes as well. So I'll try to remember to do that. And another thing that I think about is, I think about you and your journey, and this happened to me too. You learn a healthier way to live, and then you want to become a preacher, right? You want to preach to
Yeah, but
everybody the gospel. So has that been an issue for you, where you see a friend with maybe a problem that you know that you suffer from? It could be skin issues, anxiety. It can be tired, fatigue, and you want to tell them, but do you preach, or do you just kind of hold back? How have you handled that?
I try. I have learned a lot because of this way of eating, but I try not to let it go to my head. I feel like just because you know a
Mm-hmm.
lot of something doesn't mean you know everything, and I really don't know
Right.
everything, because when I see
Mm-mm.
some people talk, I'm just like, wow, I did not know that. But
Right.
so I'm not too big on uh, preaching or talking to people or telling people, because I feel like I don't have the information to completely back up every argument I'm gonna bring up. And because if they know something that I don't, I'm just gonna look like an like an idiot. So I try to
Right. Yes. Stay in your lane is definitely a safe way to go. Stay in your lane.
I try to if I'm gonna convince somebody, I'm gonna have them ask me questions. So I'm just gonna
Mm-hmm.
try to come across as a person who's open to answering questions, or somewhat talkative, so that if you see me doing something and you're like, how did you do that? Or why did that happen to you? And then, can I do that too? And then be like, oh yeah, this is what happened. This is this. And this is what I learned. It's like, is that true? I'm like, I don't know. Cause I don't know. So then you can just look it up.
Right.
And then,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully that will, that's how I'm going to convince people, at least in the beginning. Cause I plan to keep doing, or keep learning at least about,
Mm-hmm.
this on the
Mm-hmm.
side. So if it does come to a logical argument, I can be like, it does this because of this. So,
Right.
mhm.
Yeah, I think that's a safe place to be. You share your own life experiences, your own personal testimonies, and I think one thing I learned from Dr. Eric Westman and others who are very science, Dr. Brett Scher with the diet doctors, they're very like saying, "This is what we know now. This is what we don't know. This is my personal experience with my patients." And then you can, and in your case, you just say, "This is my personal experience. I've tried it this way and it worked. This is the resource I use. You should check it out." But the key is that people know that there's another way. Like, what we don't want is to live in a world where people think, "Oh, I just haven't found the right medicine yet." Right? That's the only way they're thinking. And that's a dangerous way to live your life, because there won't be a medicine that'll heal you. There'll be medicine that'll kind of keep things in check. It's like a transitional thing that you can use until you get healthy. But and there are times when you have some type of severe allergic reaction. You need to take a steroid. It's okay to take a steroid. It's not like you shouldn't. But the question is, why did you have an allergic reaction? You have to always ask that question. And is there something I can do to not have an allergic reaction? That's a better model. And that way, in the future, you won't have to worry about taking a steroid. So I know that these are things that you're going to have to kind of face moving forward. But I know I faced it, and I really did want to kind of help everybody. And that's kind of my job as a doctor. But I do have to kind of take it down a notch and make sure I'm not preachy as it relates to sharing this information. So I think that's a very good thing to keep in mind. So
Yeah.
in terms of when you became more metabolically healthy, right? You had more energy and you felt better. Are there things that you think you're doing more of now? I know we're still in a pandemic and we're trying to get out of it. Are there things that you're doing now more effectively than you were doing prior to this? What seems to be better? I remember when I got glasses for the first time, and
Oh, these
I
aren't real.
was like,
These are blue light.
"Oh, those are just fashion."
Blue light.
Yeah.
I try to because I'm on my computer all day, all the time. So I try to
Oh, okay, cool. That's
and it does
fair.
mess with my
So
sleep.
that's
So it does
just
help a
like
little. Yeah.
that'll work. That'll work. So, and I think what happens for people who need glasses, the light gets everything gets brighter, everything's clearer, right? And but who knew that you couldn't see, right? So it's so there's a lot of things that probably are going on in your life that maybe are better. So when you think about what you're able to do now that you couldn't do or weren't interested in doing, what things come to mind for you?
Um, there's a lot of stuff that I'm interested in. Um, I could talk about my life. I could also talk about the health things that have been better. I'm gonna start with exercise because that's something I wanted to get into. Well, in high school, but after high school, I wasn't really. Let's say I didn't have a plan basically, so I didn't know what I wanted to do. But now that I'm feeling, better, it's something that I can go harder at. I can go longer. Actually, before this, I started like the first half of my workout, and then I was like, oh, let me just stop right here. But I can continue going. And like the day after, because I like to do um, high intensity like to failure basically. So, but the day after, like my muscles don't feel like because I've done that before in high school, where I did this leg
Mm-hmm.
machine. I don't know what it was, but I could not walk down the stairs like right after the workout, and that was right after the workout. But now that I'm doing like this diet thing, like if I do the same intensity, the same workout, I'll be just fine. I can function properly after
Mm-hmm.
the workout and the day after and the day after that. I'll still my
Mm-hmm.
muscles will be like
Mm-hmm.
I'm still worn out, so you probably shouldn't do the same exercise. Just let me recover. But I can still.
Mm-hmm.
It's not affecting my performance in my daily life. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something that's really
Mm-hmm.
cool for all those people interested in all the athletes out there. And
That's right. That's right.
yeah, mentally I feel more sharp, more focused. I feel like maybe I'm more in touch with what I want to do, with my desires, I guess. I can just focus on
Mm-hmm.
this is my plan for the future, so this is what I'm gonna do. And it doesn't feel like I'm confused about why this is not gonna work or anxious about this is not gonna work out. I should do something easier. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm more willing to challenge myself, which is something that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And those are basically the basic lifestyle changes. My sleep is better. Conversations with people are better. My patience is better. If someone gets mad at me, I
Mm.
don't think I can get mad immediately right after.
Mm.
I mean, that happens more often with family, like because you're closer with them, and I guess you have a more emotional thing going on.
Yeah.
But
You're stable. You're
yeah,
not
so
hangry. Yeah, you're emotionally stable. Almost everybody says that. When I talked to Dr. Ken Berry, he said that. I mean, I can go down a list. Michelle Hearn, who wrote The Dietitian's Dilemma, she said that. Everybody says that. Like, people don't mind. In fact, literally, I think Michelle Hearn was the one who said that her wife was like, "Listen, you're not going back to whatever you're eating before this." And she's a carnivore too. She's like, because you're easy to be around. Seriously, think about that. That's huge. So we're
man,
saving not only lives, but relationships.
that's
Seriously.
I
And you
don't
seem
hear
like a
about that on
nice
the vegan
guy.
diet.
Yeah. Oh man, you're hungry. And again, shout out to anybody who does well with that. And again, I did well with it compared to the standard American diet, but man, I'm so much happier on a diet where I minimize plants and eat more protein from animals. So yeah, I love and by the way, uh, I do follow Dr. Ben Bokikio's high intensity exercise program where it's just 15 minutes twice a week. He believes that you have to give your body time to recover. So if that feeling that you feel, even though it's better now, when you take muscles to failure, they need time to recover, heal, and grow,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I
So he
that's what I do.
believes you need to take 2 days off. He says do the entire body, take 2 days off. So today we're recording on a Sunday. You wouldn't do it again. You wouldn't do it on Monday and Tuesday, and then you'd exercise on Wednesday, and then you try to do the total body. I love his approach, and it's made my life much simpler. And so check that out for sure. I have a video with him. You can just search Dr. Tony Hampton, Dr. Ben Bokikio, and in the show notes, there's the links to Total Gym, bands at home, and of course, exercise equipment. You talked about your focus being better. You talked about that, you're comfortable challenging yourself now. Your sleep's better, but that patience being better is huge. So I'm happy that for any family member that's watching this video or listening to the podcast, that it's easier to be with my friend now because of your diet. So that's going to be important because you're going to be faced with challenges throughout your entire life. So let's talk about your entire life. So when you think about 5 or 10 years down the road, where do you have any idea of where you want to go in life?
I do. I do have. I do want to move out the U.S., live in Japan, which might sound strange, but that's something I want to do. And but as for when that happens,
why? I got to ask you why. Somebody listening is like, why Japan? Could you give me something?
Well, first of all, I'm a big anime fan. I really like the language Japanese. And what else? I don't know. That's basically it. I really like those things as like pastimes. I don't want to talk to people in Japanese for some reason. But it's just something I enjoy doing. It's something I want to try. It might not be a permanent thing, but I definitely want to experience it. But
it's on the to-do list.
But that's gonna be after after college. I wanna go back to school maybe this fall, but maybe next spring, because I do want to save up some money. I want to get a car, which is something I don't have, unfortunately.
Right.
So
okay.
After school, then hopefully move out the country. I'll stay out the country if I like it. If I don't, I'll probably come back or maybe go somewhere different. But other than that, and in 10 years, I don't know, maybe I'll have a family by then. I don't know.
Yeah.
These are all, I haven't thought that far ahead. I'm just trying to get at least myself stable for now.
That's right. Well, for any young lady or, someone that's looking at you right now, right? Whoever's looking at you right now, getting yourself together so that you're prepared for whoever's going to be in your life is important. And I do think that that's the right attitude. So we'll just have to let you do that. We'll let everybody be patient who's looking at you a certain way right now. But I love the idea of travel. I love the idea of experiencing life, and why not do it when you're young, right? Just do it when you're young. That just makes sense. So with that, protecting your nest, right? So there's various aspects of the nest and the rope, right? The sleep, the exercise, less stress, more sleep, and recovering from trauma. I'm gonna have a young man that I met recently talk about post-traumatic stress soon, and he talks about how he was able to kind of deal with that, making sure we think positively, going back to the rope, the relationships, avoiding things that harm us like COVID, organisms, the P for pollutants, and protecting our emotions and making sure our life experiences service. So when you think about the next 24 months, I know you're kind of hitting the diet really hard. You're moving your body. You're going to work. What other things do you plan on focus on? Anything in particular you really want to focus on over the next year?
This year, I want to, or the next year, I still focus on my diet a lot. Like, the reason I'm carnivore and I only eat beef is because, like, I really try to, because it's worked so well, I keep trying to, like, make it better. So, I only eat tallow, I only eat beef, I only do salt. I've heard people try it without salt, which is something, but I haven't gotten that far yet. So, I've heard people say grass-fed is better, which is something I do want to do. But I'm gonna focus on that, stick to that because it's worked so well for me. Also, I do know how to not engineer, but I guess music engineering. It's like, no, what is it? Yeah. Yeah, it's a sound engineer. There we go. They mix songs
Okay.
and they know how to like do vocals and stuff like that. I can do that pretty well. So maybe I might start something where I get in contact with people and see if they want me to do that for them. I might also, but those are just things I'm doing on the side. I'm going to focus on school, starting fall or spring, or maybe winter. But I'm trying to go for the fall. And then, is there anything else I want to do? Oh, and start do YouTube or something like that.
Yeah,
something like that.
That's right.
And get my
you can do
social
it.
Media thing.
You can do that. Get your feet wet, you know. And I think a lot of people have done that while in school. So I think that'll be a good opportunity for you. It'll give you something to fill your free time. It'll force you to continue to learn. And my theory is if you're going to be learning this stuff anyway for yourself, might as well just share what you're learning with other people, right? So, and you're not the expert. You're just saying, listen, this is what I'm learning, just like that video series you follow on YouTube, what I've learned, right? He's just sharing what he's learned, it's like, that's kind of cool. So I really am excited for your future. Now, if anybody wants to follow you, how can they find you in the social media space?
My Instagram and my Twitter are the same. So it's Jahfari_Jones. And I think you're going to have my name in the video. I don't know, but it's Jahfari.
Yeah, I'll make sure. I'll put it in there, and I'll even have a link to the those social media as well. So apps and the link to the interview you did with A-Day Fox. Okay, so we got you.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right. So you have, really been a joy. This interview was what I expected it to be. I enjoyed, talking to you. I feel like we're going to be chatting in the future, of course. And again, I just hope that when they see my thumbnail with your image, that somebody clicks on it who's like, I'm curious what this guy has to say. And I just think that that's what this is all about, us having conversations, sharing those conversations, and hopefully somebody will hear it and be blessed because they heard it. So I appreciate you. And I just thank you for being here with me on my Protecting Your Nest podcast. So thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you for having me on. I think everybody I've seen do a podcast or who's keto or carnivore has like super cool mood and very open. So I really I enjoyed it. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
No doubt about it. And I appreciate you as well. And really, guys who are checking this out, this episode, it's really about our guest helping us to restore hope. And he really did in a lot of ways. He's in Generation Z. And Generation Z is those born between 97 and 2012. And I'm a Gen Xer. I was, born between 65 and 80. And I think every generation is concerned about the generation that preceded them. But I am so happy that the next generation is in good hands because it's being led by young men like my guests and other young women. So my hope is that this episode will help remind all of us that, yes, we can feel better. And yes, we can restore our focus and mental health. And yes, a life without chronic disease is not your destiny. I don't care what your genetics say about that. You can have a different story. So like today's guest, we must have the courage to take a different path than our current path, especially if that current path is not getting us the results we desire. That way, the barriers that have helped us, or the barriers that have kept us from achieving our goals can be removed so we can achieve the things that we think are possible. And I really am excited about the future, and I face the future with a big smile on my face. And so as we face it together, I want you guys to continue to take care of yourself, continue to be safe, continue to be well, and of course, continue to protect your nest.